What is happening, webheads? Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. I'm your host, Mike Spider Slayer, always helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy and bringing you daily comic book content. If you guys have been watching for a while and you haven't hit that subscribe button, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit it now. So guys, today's a big video because it's the wrap-up of 2024. This is going to be kind of like my top 10 comic books of the year, but it's going to go a little bit further than that as well. I'm going to talk about maybe my favorite mini-series and maybe Too Early to Calls and things like that. Now, when I talk about these top 10 comics, they're not going to be in any particular order, okay? It's just some of the books that I've been really excited about this particular year, but I definitely will let you know what my favorite series was of the year. Okay, so I got my notes right here. I did some thinking, some digging. I was looking through like League of Comic Geeks through the entire year of books that came out. So let's get started with the honorable mention here, okay? There's a few of them. There's like 3. All right, so the honorable mention is going to go to all 3 of them are going to be independent comic books, and you can see why I decided to introduce kind of like this new series, the Indie Gems, starting in January, because there's just been a lot of great independent comic books that I think deserve its own individual series, right? So the first honorable mention, and you can say it's a mini series, but maybe now it's an ongoing because they're coming out with a different volume. It's going to be Uncanny Valley. Yeah, that's right. Uncanny Valley, really great with this kid that winds up discovering that he's like part cartoon character, right? And just the imagination and the creativity that went into this comic book was outstanding, and I loved every single issue of this. So if you haven't read it, I definitely recommend that you read it. Now, the next book here that always has a ton of emotion, I've enjoyed every single issue that has come out, it has been Sacrificers. Sacrificers is a great book, okay? I absolutely love the story about this little pigeon guy that's been sacrificed to the gods, right? And then he kind of finds out the true meaning of what the gods do. It's very heartbreaking in so many ways. There's twists and turns along the way. It's another book that I would definitely recommend. Now, another book that has in the honorable mention list here, and it's been out now for a while, and I'm still reading it, is Something is Killing the Children. Now, I've really enjoyed this book. I feel like it's slowed down this particular year, but what it's accomplished is it's accomplished kind of the layers of Erica Slaughter. We get to know her more as a person instead of the monster hunter that she is, right? Going back into stories from the past, and now we're getting caught up to the current storyline. So always will recommend Something is Killing the Children. All right. So now let's talk about a book that's on the rise, right? So obviously I talk about books that's on the rise every week in my top 10 most anticipated videos. And the book that I most recently started reading again is Poison Ivy. I haven't read Poison Ivy in quite some time, and I felt like we had this little one-shot with Poison Ivy and what is it, Swamp Thing in there, which was absolutely phenomenal, written by G. Willow Wilson. And she currently writes the ongoing series, and now we get her involved in this this group that's going after her, and there's this city that rises, and she has this love interest, and the love interest is kind of hooking up with Killer Croc right now. So it's like, it's entertaining at all levels, but the artwork is absolutely gorgeous. So I would definitely recommend Poison Ivy right now. It was a great jumping on point with the all-in stuff, but if there is that one shot that came out like a month ago, I would definitely recommend that one. All right. So here is a book that's actually too early to call, and I know a lot of people are enjoying it right now. This is also from DC Comics. This is Absolute Batman. That's right, guys. Absolute Batman issue 1 bursted onto the scene. Everybody was buying it. Everyone was talking about it, right? But we've only had 2 issues as of this recording of this video, and it's too early to call if it's going to be the best series of the year, right? There's just not enough story. I think it's off to a great start. We get introduced to this world's Batman, how he's just like this hulking Batman, and he kind of has these friends with his, you would say, his rogues gallery. We get introduced to Alfred in this world, and we just got introduced to, I think, Catwoman in here, and it's just cool. And Commissioner Gordon. And so, yeah, there's all these different little elements that makes it fun and over the top, right? Like that Batman truck, the Bat truck, or the Bat Tonka truck, I should say. So yeah, absolutely great series. I would definitely recommend that for sure. All right. I got a surprising comics of the year, okay? So there's a couple of them here that stood out to me. The first one was I Heart Skull Crusher. This was a great story with the female lead by the name of Trini, who wanted to be just like her idol. And she's in this league called the Screaming Paintball League, right? And it's just some weird, crazy sport where people kill each other and all this other stuff. But she wanted to be just like her, and she wants to stop at actually nothing to be just like this and to be in the league, right? And as you read the story, she gets pretty close, and she does get closer to achieving her goal, but things might not be quite the way they seem, right? The artwork is absolutely gorgeous in this comic book. I would definitely recommend it, and now it's on its second story arc, and I don't think it ever intended to be a second story arc, but it just got good praise from a lot of people, so this is a phenomenal book. Next is probably one of the most surprising comic books of the year, and I did put this in my top 10, but I was like, this is even better, because I think this did surprise me, and this is Dynamite's Space Ghost, okay? Space Ghost for me is absolutely brilliant. I love this comic book. The artwork is phenomenal. You have this edgier Space Ghost. He's not so campy, right? Goody two-shoes. He's this guy that will kick some serious ass. You get to see him acquire the children along the way, Jana and Jace, and they go out on these adventures. There seems like there's real stakes. There's real things that happen. They come across the enemy of the month. Just really phenomenal book. I absolutely adore this comic book, okay? Now, the one thing that I am going to tell you guys that a lot of people have been telling me to read, and I just picked up my first issue of it, was Conan. I know a lot of people's probably top 10 book is going to be Conan the Barbarian. I didn't read it all year, so again, maybe next year, but I'm just letting you know that one now. All right, so let's go along with my favorite mini-series of the year. This one started at the end of last year, but concluded this year. And this one is Beneath the Trees Nobody Sees. This was a 6-issue series. So good about this little bear who you think is this little innocent, bear that's in the community, but she kind of goes out of town and she commits her own murders. Yeah, she just kills people because it makes her feel good. And then she takes the separated body parts and buries them under the ground. Dude, it's some dark shit, boy. But let me tell you, each and every issue you want to see what happens going forward. And I loved this book. This was so good. So really great stuff. I think that one was done by IDW. So surprising mini from there, right there. Okay, and then we have Nightclub 2. This is another great series. This is something that I didn't expect to be, as good as the first one. I was like, this is all so predictable. And there's all these different twists and turns, and you can tell that Mark Millar wants to push the boundaries when it comes to this series, and I can appreciate that, right? And there's love, there's lost, there's lust, there's just all kinds of different things that go on in this comic book. So I definitely recommend it with these kids that want to become vampires, heroes, and YouTube stars. So just a great stuff altogether. Let's talk about the worst comic book out there this particular year. And you guys might guess it, my worst comic book of the year wound up going to The Amazing Spider-Man. Overall, it just is a complete disaster from what Spider-Man used to be. Every time it seems like we get a new writer, the volume or the series gets worse and worse, right? Dan Slott, I had issues with certain things that Dan Slott did. His shit looks like masterpieces compared to what we've been getting in Amazing Spider-Man, right? Nick Spencer started off strong, and then you can tell that he couldn't quite finish his story the way maybe he wanted to, and so he bailed. And then you wind up getting Zeb Wells, and that was god-awful, right? And right now, we're getting this filler story, which I kind of don't really count, but overall, when you look at the body of work from Zeb Wells this particular year, just not good. Just not good at all, right? We need to go back to the basics, like just have fun with Spider-Man, make him street level, make him a little bit, I don't know, do something that people are gonna have fun with, right? So yeah, so there we have it. Amazing Spider-Man, the worst book of the year for me. Okay, so now we're gonna get into the actual top 10 books, or in no particular order. So the first book we're going to talk about is Geiger. This is from Ghost Machine imprint, Image Comics. Listen, what Jeff Johns has managed to accomplish this year when it comes to the Ghost Machine imprint stuff is phenomenal, okay? Geiger is a great story about this guy who winds up getting these radioactive powers because of a nuclear explosion, and this guy had like no heart. But what this book has become, it's become almost like a family book. He's acquired this Nate, the nuclear knight. He's got Barney, the two-headed dog. He winds up having Zigzag, the zebra, little baby zebra, and they're all going out on these adventures, and they're hoping to find a cure for Tyreek, who is Geiger, right? Absolutely great book. Next, we have Redcoat, which is the book that's another surprise pick for me. A absolutely brilliant book with a character by the name of Simon Pure, who develops the powers of immortality, right? And man, this guy has suffered over the years between, love and lost, death, and the team-up adventures with Albert Einstein was absolutely awesome. The artwork by Brian Hitch is phenomenal. This is a series that you just can't miss. The next book is a mini-series that's about to conclude very soon, is going to be Grommets. Grommets is a phenomenal book, mainly for me because I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and I went through this skater thing. So it's like you got these kids that are skaters, they skip school, you get to see them play arcade games. It's a coming-of-age story. They try to hook up with the girls, and stuff like that. It gets a little dark towards the, latter half of the series, but the artwork is phenomenal. Rick Remender does a phenomenal job with this series. So really, really great book. All right, the next book we're going to talk about is Ultimate Spider-Man. So Ultimate Spider-Man is a Spider-Man book that everybody wanted, right? We get introduced to this world Spider-Man who has a different type of suit. He teams up with Harry Osborn, which you would never think would happen. He's kind of teaming up with Dr. Octopus, and Spider-Man discovers his powers for the first time, and he's married to MJ, he's got kids, Ben Parker's still alive. Like, there's all these great elements into this story, and it's building to something great as of right now. We got introduced to this world Sinister Six. The artwork is phenomenal by Chiquetto when he does it, and it's written by Jonathan Hickman. Really great stuff right here. All right, so next book is going to be Feral. Feral is a book where I knew it was going to be good because he did Stray Dogs. Tony Fleeks did, right? And this book is like, I've said it before, it's like The Walking Dead, but for cats. And we wind up getting to see, instead of the zombie apocalypse, we see the rabies apocalypse. Every animal is getting affected with rabies. There's an alert to capture every animal within an area, and now these cats are forced to escape. Their own winds up getting affected, is chasing after them. Right now, they're in a crazy cat lady's house right now that hoards cats. It's just absolutely insane, and you cannot deny the artwork that is in this comic book. This is a phenomenal read. All right, our next book here goes to Void Rivals. This is attached to the Energon universe, as we get to see two separate people, right, from these races, right, that are common enemies but have come together to kind of work together, and they shouldn't. There's a reason why these two should be separated, right? And what made this book awesome right from the start is you wind up getting to see a Transformer that was introduced, and you're like, what? How is this Transformer in this book? And what does this mean, right? And so getting to see the dynamic to Derek and Salila work together is quite interesting, right? And I really like that. And now I'm just curious to see the direction of this book, to see if these two races like actually unite. And they can't unite, because if they do, something bad is going to happen here. So really awesome book. Next, we have Deadpool, written by Cody Ziegler, one of the few Marvel comic books that are on my top 10 list this year. That is sad. I think this is one of 3, right? So when it comes to Deadpool, main universe, right, Deadpool winds up getting killed in this world, but his daughter winds up kind of taking the mantle. It's not a permanent thing. It's actually very much temporary, right? And she wants vengeance. Ellie is her name, and trying to get her dad back. Now, her dad's going to make a return here. Now, before Deadpool actually died in this series, the dynamic between Deadpool, Ellie, Taskmaster, who is in this book, has been absolutely phenomenal. And the training of Ellie from the training that went into Ellie was from Taskmaster. So just great stuff overall. It's a fun book. I definitely recommend it. My next book is going to be The Ultimates. The Ultimates has been another really great book in the Ultimate Universe, as we get to see this version of like the Avengers, but they're like terrorists and they do all these crazy things, right? And just seeing the formation of the team has been absolutely awesome. Now, we just got released of the Ultimates Year 1 special, which introduces Ultimate Wolverine, and that freaking issue was absolutely phenomenal. Makes this series like even better, you know what I'm saying? So overall, this has been a great book. All right, so now we go into the 2 books that are very much, I would say, my top 2 of the year, right? And so that's going to be Transformers and Rook Exodus. So when it comes to my second favorite series, and I'll tell you why. It's just by a nose hair, I would say, which is Transformers, believe it or not. There's a reason why the other book is number 1. But Transformers has been a great book. One of the best comic books of the year for me. Some great artwork. And I've never read a better Transformers series in my life. Just because Daniel Warren Johnson's been able to achieve something that not everybody can achieve, and that's giving the Transformers their emotions, right? When you watch the cartoon as a kid, if you were around back then, the Transformers had lots of emotion, and as the watcher of the cartoon, that's what drew you into your favorite Transformer, right? You loved Megatron, how much of a badass he was. You loved Starscream because of how much of a traitor that he was. You loved Optimus Prime because of the heart, right? You loved Cliffjumper because he was a little short Autobot, but he wouldn't take any crap from anybody. And what Daniel Warren Johnson does is he captures those emotions in those bots. And that's what I love about this series so much. And there's little twists and turns that happen in this series. It is so good. But the reason why this book, my favorite book of the year, which is Rook Exodus, gets the number 1 spot is because this is an original idea. Rook Exodus is a story about a guy who lived on Earth on a farm and it was dying. And he was hired by this company to go to this terraformed Earth. Warden of Earth. or I'm sorry, warden of this new terraformed Earth. Now, not only was he the only warden, there's all these other wardens as well, and they have these animal abilities. They wear these helmets and they're able to control the different animals. So he's in control of like crows, right? There's another person in charge of wolves. There's another person in charge of like bears, right? And the world that you're immersed in here is just amazing. And the artwork from Jason Fabok is top notch, top tier, best artwork. I would say if he wasn't the artist, this book would not be the way it is today. It is so good, right? And just the originality of this comic book is what made it a lot of fun. I've said this before. It's like the character's so cool. It reminds me of the modern day of like Mask, right? It's another 80s cartoon where they wore masks and then and they actually gave them like powers and they drove vehicles, right? This one has to do with like animals. So I think that is so freaking cool. And it's like going to the store and it's like buying an action figure and opening it up for the first time. That's kind of like this comic book, the way it is for me. So awesome. Absolutely brilliant. I would recommend Rook Exodus every day of the week alongside with Transformers. So there you guys have it. My voice is like giving out on me as we get to the conclusion of this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. That is everything and all my thoughts on 2024. Looking forward to the new comic year of 2025. I want to know in the comments below, what are your favorite comic books of the year? That is viewer's choice right there, guys. And I'll leave you more content right here for you to click on. Of course, guys, support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, but always, always read those comic books, because without that, we can't have great videos and conversation just like this one today. Guys, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.